Lavitz is by far the most buff character in The Legend of Dragoon, which of course explains how he was able to seduce King Albert. He primarily focuses on physical prowess brandishing a polearm, but his magical attack and defense are relatively weak. However, he compensates well for this with unique skills shared with no one else in the game. So today, we're going to examine his value as a character when compared to his comrades. And later in the video, I'll talk about one of the best strategies that you can use with Lavitz. We ask, how good is Lavitz actually? Lavitz is consistently strong as a human throughout the game. In terms of physical strength, he is almost unmatched. His physical prowess is exceeded only by that of Kongol. However, both units are let down by their speed. This means that even though Lavitz attacks are powerful, he'll get fewer turns to act than characters like Haschel and Meru. They both have weaker physical damage than Lavitz throughout the game, but later use their agility to bridge that gap. But he largely makes up for this with excellent additions and weapon options. He eventually gets access to Flower Storm, which has a 500% attack multiplier and is available very early in the game. This allows Lavitz to max out its power before many characters even have access to their final edition at all, which gives him an enormous power boost. His weapons are also more consistently powerful than those of his allies. His Partisan Spear, available even before the end of the game, boasts a powerful 56 attack, and his ultimate weapon has an attack stat of 65. When combined with his massive personal attack and Flower Storm, he can dish out some incredible damage numbers. The flip side, though, is that on the magical side, Lavitz suffers immensely. His magic stat is the second worst for the entire game, beating only Kongol. Essentially, Albert should never be using magic in human form. But one person who should be using magic is you. To like this video and subscribe to my channel, which helps all of my videos in the YouTube algorithm. And it's absolutely free. I really appreciate your help, and thank you so much for supporting my channel. Defensively, Lavitz is excellent on the physical side of things. He beats out all characters except Kongol, whose massive HP pool and gargantuan physical defense stat have no peer. But in terms of magical defense, Albert loses to all other characters. While his magic defense stat is technically only the second worst, Kongol's high HP pool means he's likely to take similar, if not less % damage when attacked with magic. But all is not as it seems, and we'll talk a little bit more about his defenses when we get to the Dragoon section. But in any case, as I alluded to before, Lavitz his speed stat is what truly holds him back. Having the second lowest speed stat in the game means he gets lapped by Meru and Haschel, and they are his main competition in the damage department due to their high speed, excellent final additions, and in Meru's case, stellar magic aptitude. So in human form, Lavitz is a powerful physical attacker with great defense. He's held back by his poor stats on the magical side and his abysmal speed statistic. While Lavitz's human form has marked weaknesses, notably its speed and magical defense, Lavitz's Dragoon form has some unique characteristics that make him a peak performer. Offensively, his Dragoon form does excellent physical damage due to his fantastic base strength, though he unfortunately only receives a 150% base damage boost when transformed. His high attack damage, though, is hindered by his poor speed, which is apparently going to become a theme in this video. Even worse for him is the fact that equipment stat boosts do not apply in Dragoon form. This means that he is completely stuck with his base speed. However, Dragoon magic is where Lavitz begins to look a little more promising. His level 1 Dragoon magic is Wing Storm, and at first glance, it seems like a great spell. It's a wind attack with 25% power against all enemies. This means that it can be good for defeating mobs of smaller enemies or for killing boss sidekicks. However, Lavitz's magic stat is abysmally low, even with his 200% magic multiplier he gets in Dragoon form. This means it's rarely worthwhile to use this spell when you have the option of using a consumable item with a more magically adept character. But his level 2 Dragoon magic changes everything. Rose Storm is a 20 MP cost spell that halves all damage to the party for 3 turns. This one spell single-handedly fixes Lavitz's poor magic bulk and any survivability issues your entire team might have. Kongol's low magic defense? Who cares? Meru's low physical defense? Not a problem. Shana's low HP? She'll live. The only downside is that the timer on this skill counts down individually for each character each time they take a turn. So if Meru takes 3 turns and Lavitz has only had 1, her shielding will expire while Lavitz remains. This isn't too much of an issue though, since the spell costs very little, so it can be renewed pretty liberally. His third magic, Gaspless is a 100% power wind attack against a single enemy, and while this could be a good choice for Earth bosses, Lavitz's low magic attack means he's better off saving his magic points for more casts of Rose Storm. Enabling the entire party to act more aggressively will ultimately lead to fewer turns wasted healing and more turns doing damage. But imagine if this attack were on Shana or Meru, it would be absolutely broken. His final magic, Jade Dragon, is probably his least useful. It's a 75% attack that targets all enemies. As all dragons do, it summons a special field to boost its own damage, but again, Lavitz has no business casting any offensive magic in Dragoon form. Rose Storm on its own breaks the game, and Lavitz's terrible magic stat ruins the damage that Jade Dragon might do, and it uses almost all of his magic points, taking away potential casts of Rose Storm, so saving his magic points and using them only for Rose Storm is probably the best way to go. Defensively, Lavitz gains massive defense boosts in Dragoon form that are only made greater by Rose Storm, almost completely mitigating his poor magic bulk. And of course, his physical bulk is made even more amazing by these boosts. All that being said, Lavitz's lack of any amazing offensive prowess in Dragoon form above and beyond his human form opens him up to a unique strategy that I mentioned in my tips and tricks video for the Legend of Dragoon. By the way, I'll link that video in the description in case you haven't seen it yet. The strategy is the Dragoon level 1 strategy. By keeping Lavitz's Dragoon level at level 1 and always Dragooning at level 1, he can use Rose Storm and then immediately revert back to human form. Now, the disadvantage to this strategy is that he'll lose his Dragoon defense boosts, but the advantage of this strategy is that he'll have everyone's damage anyway and then get any boosts from his items back. In case I forgot to mention it earlier, while transforming gives you huge stat boosts, it also nullifies any bonus effects that you have from your equipment. So reverting back to human form then opens up many options. For example, you could give Lavitz an MP restoring accessory so that he can always have enough MP for Rose Storm. Or, and this is my personal favorite way to play him, you can give him the Bandit Ring and the Bandit Shoes to patch up his terrible speed stat. This will let him act far more quickly and dish out a ton of damage, but only when he is not in Dragoon form, and his speed will be good enough that he'll be able to recast Rose Storm as soon as it wears off. Lavitz's Dragoon form is top tier defensively due to Rose Storm and his massive defense boosts. This allows him to enable the party rather than focusing on his own personal damage and therefore increasing party-wide damage as a whole. However, for offense, he's best left in his human form where his physical attacks and additions can really shine. So overall, how good is Lavitz actually? In human form, his physical offense and defense are excellent, and his magical prowess is absolute garbage. But the utility he provides in Dragoon form is game-breakingly good, allowing the party's speedy glass cannons to unleash their full offensive might. He is let down somewhat by a low speed stat and poor magic offense, but his ability to boost party damage by making defense a non-issue is well worth his loss of personal damage. If this video was helpful to you, I know exactly which video you need to watch next. My prior video in this series, How Good is Dart, actually. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.